Who's hungry? So now that we're deep in the butt crack of fall 2025, I thought I'd give my thoughts on my most anticipated show of the season, Watatabe, aka A Monster Wants to Eat Me. And full disclosure, I'm very familiar with the manga, so I'll refrain from any spoilers beyond what we've already seen from the anime so far. Now very quickly, the show is about a girl named Yotose Hinako, who was the sole survivor of a tragedy that befell her family when she was little. She now spends her days wishing to join them in the great beyond, and her wish just might be granted when she meets the mysterious mermaid girl Omi Shiori, who promises to protect her from all the hungry yokai after her delicious body. But in exchange, Hinako must grow big and strong, so that one day she'll be on Shiori's plate instead. Basically, girl meets fish girl. Girl wants to die, fish girl wants to eat her, everyone wins. Or do they? Now, generally speaking, the show has been quite on point. In fact, it might be too on point. In near perfect accuracy, the anime replicates beat for beat the events of the manga, even down to the little things, like those extra dialogue and afterthoughts from the characters. Now, this is fine for the most part, but like I always say, there's not much ambition in making the same thing twice. One thing I was hoping they would do differently in the anime is make it less obvious that Hinako's family is dead, and how much Hinako is suffering from her family being dead. Yeah, I know that's the crux of the whole story, but it became pretty easy to decipher that within the first chapter of the manga, and the first episode of the anime, and it became even easier when Hinako would constantly muse over this through inner dialogue. With anime being a strong visual medium, I was hoping they would just get these points across through more subtle methods, how Hinako is feeling and what she might be thinking about. As a wise asshole once said, show, don't tell. The undersea imagery is actually quite brilliant already, visualizing just how much Hinako is drowning from her tragic situation. Again, there's the literal aspect of the ocean that took her family away from her, but then there's the metaphorical side of it being like a prison, where she's constantly drifting aimlessly with no salvation in sight. I also kinda find it hard to believe that this girl is constantly thinking depressing thoughts every waking moment. She does have a life, and not knowing how Hinako views everything around her was always a setback to the series. I mean, it has been 10 years since she experienced that tragedy. What the hell went on in her life since then? Maybe I'm just an unfeeling douchebag, but I think it would have been more narratively satisfying to have Hinako's dark ideations be triggered, instead of coming out whenever she gets even a moment of time to think to herself. Basically, just like the intro to the first episode where it showed families being happy, and hammering home just how super happy these families are. Because that's certainly what you don't have, Hinako. But then again, Hinako's mind might only go to dark places during the summer. After all, in the beginning of episode 1, she was reminded that it was almost the anniversary of her family's death. So maybe she only has self-deleting thoughts on a seasonal basis. Again, these are all minor points that I'm bringing up. The show excels at a lot of things as well. Aside from the intriguing story, the anime complements it with fantastic music. It's tense and atmospheric. Someone clearly knew how to set the right tone in these often foreboding scenes. The performances are also going a long way too. I'm familiar with all 3 of the voice actors, and had no doubt they would bring their A-game to these characters. Also, I can't believe I never got the chance to appreciate Uda Reina's singing before. What the hell can't Japanese voice actors do? Next, I want to briefly go over the animation. Overall, it's totally fine, which on the Yuri anime scale is better than most already. Yep, I'm an asshole. However, compared to the manga, it doesn't really hold the brightest candle. Naiko Asai has a certain way of making a single image speak volumes. From the chilling expressions to the expert usage of shadows and tone. Everything melts together to create a perfect dark atmosphere. It's not necessarily an issue, but what holds the visuals back is that there isn't really a unique identity to it. Nothing that makes it stand out or stand equally alongside the manga. Another issue is that the anime relies a little too much on slow motion. It makes sense to use it in some scenes, but other times it feels like it's just thrown in there willy-nilly. The last thing I want to be reminded of is a Zack Snyder movie. Speaking of slow motion, something I also can't defend is that quote-unquote fight scene in episode 5. I don't want to sound too harsh here, but the scene was kind of embarrassing. There was absolutely no sense of urgency. You can feel that from how both Miko and Shiori were lagging through their movements, like they were caught in a time vortex. And unfortunately, I think I know why they decided to do this. If you kept looking at your watch during this episode, you're not the only one. They really stretched it out, man. I suspect that they wanted to make this entire episode about Miko and Hinako's past together, and to end it on that cliffhanger. Basically, just like chapter 10 in the manga. It also explains why they ended episode 4 so bizarrely. They couldn't fit it all into one episode, so they had to partition it. But this came at the cost of filling episode 4 with a tonal whiplash, and turning the next episode into a total slog. And you don't need some jackass like me to tell you that this is not exactly up to snuff. And no, this song doesn't make up for it. Okay, maybe a little. Alright, now for the part you care about the most. The freaking Yuri. Now, I'm not gonna pussyfoot around the truth. Everything we've seen so far is basically Yuri's subtext at best. Like I said, I'm not gonna go into detail about spoilers, but so far the anime hasn't coagulated into anything definitive on the Yuri front. But that doesn't mean subtext is something to be disregarded. It's a powerful tool when used right, and I'm a sucker for multi-layered meaning. For instance, we see Shiori proclaim multiple times that she wishes to consume our sweet protagonist, but each time she explains it in a devilishly seductive manner. Just take a look at this.
私だって本当は今すぐ君の皮を剥いで腹を裂いて腹綿全部を引きずり出して爪の一枚すら余さず食らい尽くしたい。
This scene nearly fried my brain, and it's not because I'm into cannibal porn. It's an obvious double entendre, and Shiori is absolutely filling the role of a typical predatory Yuri character. There's really not that much difference, other than how they're eating their meal. Another example is when poor Miko finally meets Shiori, and witnesses firsthand how friendly she's getting with Hinako. With the subtlety of a wrecking ball, Miko introduces herself as Hinako's bestest friend in the whole wide world, holding her close and making sure to rub that special relationship in Shiori's face. We know that Miko was initially suspicious of Shiori after getting a whiff of her scent, and why she would be so concerned for Hinako being near a potential monster, thus her creepy yandere stare. But she could also be the really jealous type too, and sense that another Bishoujo has wormed her way into her and Hinako's love turf. A scene like this would be business as usual in a bona fide Yuri anime. And for the record, I do believe in there being actual romantic feelings in this series. I'm just explaining how it cleverly uses subtext, and that also extends to the reveal of Miko being a fox spirit. She stayed close to Hinako after the tragedy, and felt a responsibility to watch over and protect her. But who's to say she didn't develop some carnal desires? Let's look at the facts. Miko turned into a cute girl and used magic to get close to Hinako. She killed anything that tried to eat her with extreme prejudice. She lost her shit when Shiori showed up and tried to take Hinako away from her. If I didn't know any better, I'd say the anime is trying to tell us something. Also, I'm sure people caught on to the Silent Hill F similarities by now. Them foxes are simpin', man. Overall, the anime so far is pretty much what I expected it to be. A faithful adaptation with adequate production. My excitement is aimed primarily at our protagonists, but it's mainly because I'm already familiar with these characters. 5 years of getting to know them is gonna have that effect. Let me know if you only watch the anime and if these characters are growing on you. For me, it's always Shiori and particularly Miko that are standouts. That's not to say I don't like Hinako, I just wish we knew more about her. But yeah, some decent stuff all around, and I can say that the plot will only thicken with each passing week. The show does start off with a slow pace, but the series is a bit of a slow burn, which makes sense, I guess. You want to take your mysteries and drama one tiny step at a time. I just hope they can structure it well enough and cap things off with a bang. Alright, that's it. See you around.
もうひなこがそんなだから
悪い妖怪に付け入られるんだよ。